I'm Rachel Munds. I'm a fifth-year PhD student here at the University of Missouri studying anthropology with a focus on nocturnal primates. I talked about slow loris diversity, particularly on the Bornean slow loris, and looked at how species concepts are used and how we can use them to recognize new species. We mainly looked at species differences based on what we call morphology, so coat color and coat pattern differences, and also biogeography, so how these natural barriers influence the patterns for species. Part of the research resulted in recognizing a new species, which was not my plan. I had originally thought we'd only found 3 species. My undergrad advisor looked at the data and were like, this one group has just a lot of differences within. Let's see if maybe there's 4. So we did the statistics looking at if there were 4 groups, and lo and behold, there were, which then resulted in Susan calling me up and going, well, you're going to have to name this. My response was actually immediately, I don't speak Latin, so I have no idea how we're going to do this. And because generally when you name a species, you have to Latinize the name. And I really didn't want to have to bother with that. I could have probably called someone to help me. But there was a loophole. I could name it after a barrier. And so we named it after a river. And that's why we got Nycticebus cayenne. And then we found out this wonderful photographer had these great images of cayenne. And we were able to use that to really show what the species looks like. It is my first Saturday morning science talk, so it's been an honor and a pleasure. I really like it. I know at my undergrad institution we had like a Saturday night cafe talk, and I always thought it was nice to really get the public involved and really try to explain science in a comprehensible way. I feel a lot of researchers can overtalk or highbrow their talks to the public, and this is a really big effort, and I did a lot trying to break it down and simplify. Not an easy topic even in science. Species concepts are really hard to talk about scientifically. So to try to make it comprehensible to anyone is a challenge, particularly when someone told me, well, there'll be kids there. I was like, oh, great. I don't even know how to explain this to kids, let alone my parents. So this is, it was a good challenge though, and I think it's an important one that every researcher has to consider is how do we communicate our research effectively to the public? Because if they don't understand it, they're not going to care. One of the biggest plights with slow lorises, especially when we find out that there's this increasing diversity, is when you start making what was once a really large group of species into smaller and smaller clusters, what was now already threatened species becomes a more endangered species. And a really big threat to them is the pet trade. And so Rihanna, I know in the past had a loris on her shoulder, Lady Gaga got bit by a loris. These are all negative press events where it shows, oh look, you could have a loris and hold it. And people go, oh, I want to hold that, Lady Gaga held it. But at the same time, it also allows an opportunity for researchers to go, this is why they're not a pet. Lady Gaga got bit. The people who had Rihanna holding that loris were arrested later for having a loris. These aren't pets, and they should be in the wild. And the fact that their teeth are ripped out with nail clippers is devastating, because once they're gone with the teeth, we can't do anything with them. And their populations are decreasing dramatically. But it is really thankful to people like Dr. Nakaris who have the Little Fireface Project and other international animal rescue, so other organizations that are really fighting to protect them, that they're probably still here. And optimistically, things do seem to look better. More people are aware of their existence. I think more people are aware that they aren't pets and they shouldn't be pets. So that's always an optimism part. And it's not saying like, well, it's at least, we're fighting just deforestation. There are 2 battles going on. I mean, it's the pet trade and deforestation that are affecting these populations.